Good afternoon, Eagle Nation. Thank you for joining us for our Wellness Wednesday. My name is Charlie Davis III, and I'm the Director of Student Life here at Tallahassee Community College. And Wellness Wednesdays is a series of virtual workshops, activities that we want our student body to participate in just maintaining and upkeeping your total balance of health and wellness when it comes to your mind, body, and soul slash spirit. Today we're um, joined by the counseling center here at TCC, and we have our art therapist who is going to share some ways that we can relax and not stress out so much with what's going on in the world and with school at the same time. So I'm going to turn the Zoom screen over to Whitney, and Miss Whitney, the floor is all yours.
Thank you, Charlie. Thanks for having me here on this Wellness Wednesday. My name is Whitney Heim. I'm a licensed mental health counselor and also a registered art therapist in the counseling center here at TCC. So today we're going to be talking about mandalas. So I don't know if anybody knows what mandalas are. Any of you that are on here know about mandalas? But here's an example from the front of a mandala book that I have here, but usually it's a circle that's filled with lines and shapes and colors and different designs. And we're going to talk today about how to create your own mandalas to help improve your stress, to reduce stress, and to increase feelings of relaxation. So to start with a mandala, well, actually, I wanted to say that there are a lot of pre-drawn mandalas. Like I said, I have this book, so you can have ones like this, which are fairly detailed, right? Like that's a lot of lines in there, and that would take a lot of time if you're going to draw that on your own. And some of them are more simple, so they don't all have to be really detailed like that. Here's one kind of in the middle. So when you have a book like this, with any sort of coloring, or adult coloring books are really popular right now, and they can be really fun to color, and it can help some people feel less stressed. Personally, when I look at some of these like really detailed ones, that makes me feel more stressed, because look at all these tiny parts that I'd have to color and it would take forever. So for some people it can be great, some people not so much. But the most therapeutic benefit and the most stress relief you're going to get is from making your own. So today we're going to talk about how to make your own mandala. So there's two ways that we can start. You can start by either printing or tracing your own circle. So sometimes I just trace like the bottom of my water cup, like this here, on a little piece of paper. So you can make a small circle. Sometimes big circles can feel really intimidating. You have to fill them with a lot of lines, but you can do small. It doesn't have to be huge. Or for even more therapeutic benefit, you can draw your own circle. So that can be a little more tricky, right? Especially for someone who's a perfectionist. I know there's people out there who really want their circle to be just right. And so this can kind of be an exercise in helping to let some of that go as well. So when you're drawing your own circle, you can start by moving your hand above the paper in a circular motion. That can kind of get your arm warmed up and get your hand ready to go and ready to make that circle. So I'm going to kind of do that here. And you can see that my circle is kind of wonky, but not horrible, right? But I got a lot of circle drawing practice. So
I make a triangle instead of a circle for a mandala.
if you really wanted to, yes, because you can do whatever you want, whatever's going to bring you the most relaxation. But the circle helps to contain kind of those feelings in a really calming way by having this circular motion that goes around. So there is some like history behind the circle and the feelings of relaxation that you get with it. So you can surely do whatever you want. You can also draw your circle and then draw triangles within the circle, and then from there create your mandala. So if you want to do this along with us, once you have your circle ready to go, whether it's a small traced one or your own hand-drawn one, you can choose to start either on the outside and work your way in, or on the inside and work your way out, however you would like. But we're going to start by, I prefer personally to start on the middle and work my way outward. Sometimes I'm not directly in the middle of my circle and my mandala is all a little bit off, like this one here is one that I made on a piece of watercolor paper that's a client that I worked with years ago had painted. A child had painted this and then didn't want it. So I reused this and drew a mandala on top, and you can see it's like a little bit off. But this is a pretty simple but detailed, I guess, at the same time, one. But I usually start in the middle, and you can start with a little dot there and begin drawing shapes and lines. But it doesn't have to look like this. Here's another example. This is just in a picture frame that I got at Target. Another example, very, very, very detailed. So some people might find that overwhelming. But just like how I showed you this one here, it doesn't have to be that detailed. It doesn't even have to be symmetrical. Like all these designs are the same all the way around, right? It doesn't have to be like that. You can, if you're having a bad day, you can draw a circle on a piece of paper and just scribble inside there and get all of your emotions out and put them all inside that circle and just be done with it. Throw it away afterwards. Get rid of that bad day with that piece of paper. But let's see. So I'll show you my process of how I usually do a mandala. So I have my little circle here that I trace my water cup, and I might start in the middle with just, personally, I always end up doing some sort of flower design. And then from there, working your way out and seeing how it feels. So for Chris here, who asked about the triangles, I might do something like this where I make a triangle inside the circle and then color in some different designs around that, or color in the negative space. And you can do this with markers, colored pencils, crayons, just a pencil, just a marker, a pen, whatever you feel like using, and go from there. So this is just a very simple design. Obviously, sometimes when I do my small ones, I even go and make more designs outside of this and just make it bigger and see how it goes. This can be a really great way to channel any emotion that you're feeling. So if you, like I said, have had a long day and you want to just draw this circle and kind of think about the emotions you're feeling and what shapes those represent. So personally, for me, when Chris mentioned triangles are really kind of pointy, and they kind of, for me, represent more like anxious emotion. When I'm feeling more anxious and I do mandalas, I know that they come out more detailed a lot of times because I'm like really focused on what I'm doing, trying to get that energy, anxious energy out of me. When I'm more relaxed, I notice that my mandalas are kind of more free and flowy, or sometimes if I'm using paint, it can be more freeing, so they're really flowy there too. So you'll notice that if you do a mandala with paint or markers, it might be a lot more open than one that you do with a pen or a Sharpie, which has a lot more detail to it. So those are kind of the steps to creating your own mandala. And you can color them in afterwards. So obviously you don't have to leave them just a Sharpie or a pen. You can create them with something colorful to start with, or you can create it like this and then color it in like your own little coloring sheet. You can repurpose old paper like I have here and have a colorful background. But yeah, I get a lot of ideas for mandalas from different shapes and things that I see out in the world and try to incorporate them there. It can also be like this one I showed you. You can have, things that are not just shape related. You can have a sun in there. You can have, I have one in here that has like fish in it. So sometimes when I have in the past done a mandala sort of journal where each day I did a mandala that kind of represented that day for me. And so I would sometimes include elements like if I spent my time outdoors in the woods, I would have more leaves and things that kind of represented what I had done that day. So yeah, does anybody have any questions about mandalas or any thoughts they want to share, if they've done any before, or if you've been creating one while we've been talking this whole time, if you want to show it to us? The two people here.
I'm nowhere near done because and also it turns out I asked about triangles because I've enjoyed, oh, there we go. I enjoy much more geometric straight lines. As long as I want my shapes to be able to stack together without open space.
Okay, so you want it to all fit in there together.
Yes, I like everything to mesh like beautiful cogs. So I don't know what I'm going to do for coloring yet, or if I'm going to add any more shapes. But
Okay.
I'm thinking of an interesting way to fill exact space, which I think that would be like just the most peaceful thing if I can achieve it.
So Chris is really thinking his mandala through, right? So you can do that where you're planning out each step of how you want it to look in the end. But you can also just wing it and go for it. Just pick a random marker out of there, Chris, or pick your favorite color and then start coloring and see what happens. So a lot of times with art therapy, people focus a lot on what the final product is going to look like, but it's actually much more beneficial to focus on the feelings that you have while you're developing or creating the art piece, and how you feel when you look at it in the end. It doesn't matter so much if it looks pretty. Like this one, to me, not the prettiest mandala I've ever done for sure, but I could keep working on this, and then I might be able to look back at that and be like, okay, I can see the emotions that I felt in this moment. I was excited for this Wellness Wednesday event, and I can see that with this like excited little star shape here that I made. I'll show it again. Right? Doesn't he look excited? I think so. A little star guy there in the middle. So yeah, so I personally, I love making mandalas. I highly recommend them for people who are experiencing anxiety or depression. It can help you to improve your mood and to increase those feelings of relaxation and to decrease stress at the end of a day. And it can even help to focus you like at the start of a day or before you go into a test or before you have class. Can help to focus your thoughts and feelings as well. Charlie, have you been drawing a mandala this whole time?
I have.
Let us see.
Oh,
Oh,
I
it's
had to change
pale.
my background.
How do
Hold
you
on.
feel? Like, does it evoke any emotion in you?
Um, More like Chris with planning what shape or what pattern I want to continue with or go attack next.
Yeah.
Because I got flower shapes, I have round shapes, I have triangles, I have just pointed shapes and starburst shapes. So
Yeah.
what's the next phase of the next outer layer and continue to go on from there.
Exactly. And that's where sometimes if I'm feeling like I want to plan out a mandala like that, I'll even Google mandalas. Just Google that and click Google images there, and you can see people really, or even looking at them like on Instagram, because people really make some beautiful ones, and it gives you like ideas for different shapes that you didn't think about making. Because I find I do the same kind of shapes over and over again, the stuff that I'm used to making just with anything in life. We repeat stuff that we're comfortable with. So that gives me some new ideas too. But yeah, thank you for sharing that, Charlie. I like it a lot. And I just lost my thought about what I was going to say about it. Yeah, it's gone out of my head. But yeah, thank you.
No problem. But I do have a question. So if students outside of art therapy, what other services does the counseling center offer to
So
TCC students?
yeah, so for all TCC students that are currently enrolled in classes, we offer individual counseling. So right now we're doing most of our counseling sessions are on the phone or in Zoom. And then we are offering some in-person sessions on a case-by-case basis for students who might not have a private space for confidentiality in their home or whatever. So that you can talk to the counseling center about scheduling anything in person. And then we're also starting a group that is going to be, what is it called, Chris?
Thursdays.
Anxiety.
Yeah, stress and anxiety.
Stress and anxiety. So this is perfect lead into that, right? So we'll be doing a stress and anxiety group that's going to be run by Chris and our counselor, Chelsea. Chris is our intern this semester. He's getting his MSW at FSU. So he's also here doing individual sessions. And but yes, we have that group, and then we do individual counseling as well. Kiana, have you been making a mandala?
I'm still drawing the circle. I'm making shape and sound. I'm working on the outside now.
Okay, okay.
So Whitney, I have another question. When it comes to art therapy, well, I guess you can go into a brief about what other, I guess they're called techniques you use
Directives, yeah.
that you would use with a student who would be referred or who would want a session with you.
Yeah. So in a typical art therapy session, we do some talking as well, but it really depends on the student and where they're at. But some examples of different things they could do, a lot of times starting with something simple like a collage, just to get to know each other, can be really nice. And that's a very low stress and like low difficulty task, right? It's easy to cut out magazine pictures and decide like, oh, this represents me, and glue it on a piece of paper. So some people get really creative with their collages, and some people, just put their things in a row, and that tells me about them, and we can go from there. But that's a really good kind of opening art therapy exercise. And then usually after you complete the art directive, whatever it is in the session, from there, we process it and talk about how those things represent you, how you felt doing the collage or the art directive, whatever it is. So in art therapy, you can use any medium. You can use markers, colored pencils, clay, paint. And I mentioned earlier that when you use things like paint or markers, that it can lead to your mandalas being more open. So there's kind of a continuum of materials where when you're using materials that are more permanent and like pens, things that are smaller and more controllable, that can help people to feel less anxious. So a collage makes you feel hardly anxious at all, right? Because you're just cutting out paper and gluing it down. That's pretty easy. Paint is very wet and open and messy, and that might make you feel a little more anxious. If I'm like, oh, here, paint something for me, right? That might make somebody feel uncomfortable or nervous if they're not an artist. And you don't have to be an artist to do art therapy. Sometimes it's better if you're not, because then you're not so worried about how it's going to look at the end, and you're more worried about or not even worried, but you're more focused on the process of the art making and the feeling that is going into it and the content there versus the final product.
Thank you. And that was my next question. So let's say you do have a student that says that they're not the best artist or best artist. So that's something that's lingering in their mind. And how do you go by just breaking that thought in their mind so that they know that, hey, you don't have to be the best artist to achieve this?
So yeah, I start by, like I said, trying something really easy with low risk. So doing a collage, doing maybe even doing mandalas in the beginning, because those can be pretty easy to contain, and we can do the pre-drawn ones and have them color those. But starting with something where we're not necessarily making a pretty picture in the end can be helpful. So if we're purposefully doing something that's abstract, which means that it's not any specific image, it's just lines and colors and shapes, that can be helpful as well. So there's not the risk of failure there, because that fear of failure is pretty strong, right? It's scary to think like, oh, I got to do this and I have to show it to somebody. But reminding students too that I'm the only one that's going to see it. I've seen so much artwork from so many different people. Like, I'm not here to judge you. This isn't going to be hung up in a museum or anywhere. It's just between us. It's just for us to look at. And so that can be helpful too. And I think people are sometimes surprised at what they can do. So when you're giving yourself the time and the opportunity to kind of let that creativity flow, even if you're not like traditionally artistic, you might have some other creativities that come out through art therapy that you might be proud of. I know I mentioned earlier that a while ago I had done like a mandala a day. So I decided, it was a few years ago, that at the start of the year I was going to do one mandala a day that represented, how I felt that day. And I think I made it until June, when I was like, nope, I'm over this. And so, I think in the beginning of the year is really helpful to help me kind of focus and kind of set my intention for the year. And on days where I had rough days, I would go back to it, and that was really helpful. But this is with anything in life, if it's not working for you, then don't do it anymore. There's no, just because you decided that, there's something to be said, of course, for persevering and continuing to be hard, but sometimes if it's just not working, then change direction. So I decided to only do a mandala when I felt like I needed to. I felt like it served its purpose for me. But yeah, I had this tiny little notebook that I would trace a circle in and do one every night, or then every so often after June. And I found it really helpful. So I suggest looking into that if you're finding that this is fun or helpful for you. So here's the one that I was making as an example. I just kind of filled it in real quick. So sometimes I just try to not think about it too much. Like I said, if you're so worried about the final product, you can kind of lose some of the benefit if you're focused too much on it. So I just kind of drew some lines. You might have heard me say, oops, because I meant to draw a line this way and went the other way. So I had to go back and kind of scribble over this part over here a little bit extra. But, that's part of the process of it. So now I'm going to color mine in I have some colored pencils here. I like color a lot, so I end up coloring mine most of the time, unless I'm feeling like, I don't know, really low. Maybe if I'm having like a really sad day or something, I might feel too like it doesn't need color. It's just gonna be black and white. That's it. This is how sad I am. Chris, how's yours? Is it?
I think it's good. Just about done. I think I did an all right job coloring in the lines that I made. And I
Okay.
like
Are you gonna
contrast
color
and all
that
that.
last white spot?
I like the color white. I
Okay.
want to leave just the one last piece unfinished.
Oh,
I'll just it's a
see that like, I don't know. I wouldn't be able to do that. I'd be like, well, we gotta color this
like it.
guy in. So then, Chris, when you look at that, or let's start with, how did it feel while you were creating that mandala?
It was cool to I was concentrating a lot because like I said I'm very goal oriented and I really like seeing things crossed off the checklist. So every time that I finished a section that I didn't, like bleed over the lines that I drew, it was a good bit of an accomplishment. I did it and cool, now I go on to the next section and it was like a success that I could move forward with.
Yeah. So then now that you're looking at it, how do you feel about it?
That's cool. I still fully accept that I am not an artist, but I think it's a pretty decent job.
Right?
I
Yeah,
really
you don't
like it.
have to be an artist. I used to, when I worked with children, I told them, like, no one here is a famous artist.
Mhm.
Nobody here has artwork hanging in a museum, and that's perfectly okay.
Right.
So cool. Do you think you'll do more mandalas in the future ever?
I can see a couple.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. How's yours coming, Charlie?
It's coming along. I'll show you. Hold on. I'll get rid of my background again.
Yeah. Charlie, it's beautiful. Look at that.
So it's coming along.
It is coming along. I like the color that you're adding in there. And normally I wanted to add that in a therapy session, I wouldn't make a comment like that because it is not about it being beautiful or not, and I didn't mean to say that yours isn't beautiful by making that comment about his, Chris and Charlie. So that's something that I wouldn't typically say if we're in a group or a counseling session, because it doesn't matter if it's beautiful, but it
Right.
is beautiful. So, and so is yours, Chris. And maybe Kiana, if we get to see yours, I'm sure yours is going to be beautiful too. So I hope that you're going to keep these hanging up in your office, Chris and Charlie, once you're done with them, or take them home and just think about this day and remind yourself that you can do mandalas at any time for stress relief or for fun.
I had the thought that I wanted to like cut it out and use it for a Christmas tree ornament.
Hey, that'd be pretty cool. You could laminate it, keep it for years to come. So here's mine looking more colored in.
Gorgeous.
So that star shape in the middle of there where I said that, made me kind of reminded me of the feeling excited for this talk. And so then I was like, well, maybe then I'll make this kind of like a night sky behind it, so it doesn't have to have like a theme like that. It doesn't have to be anything, but sometimes it's where my brain goes. So let's see.
So Whitney, if a student wanted to get in contact with the Counseling Center, how would they go by getting in contact with you all?
So they can email us at counselingcenter@tcc.fl.edu or give us a call at 850-201-7726. We're also on Instagram at TCC_counseling center. Or in the My TCC app, we have a counseling center group. So you can join that group, which will give you updates on the therapy groups that we're offering, or any changes, and our information is all listed there. We're working on adding some resources to the folder in our My TCC group. And you can find all of our information about our services and our staff here on our counseling center website through the TCC website there under student services. But yeah, they can call and talk to the lovely Kaylin at the front desk, get them set up with an appointment. And yeah, you can talk to a counselor and help you get some things figured out.
Do clients typically draw like the entire session?
It really depends on the person. So sometimes they do. Sometimes we spend the whole time working on something, and some students like to talk while they draw. Sometimes it feels like it helps them to open up just by keeping their hands busy and focusing on something else. Some like to work in silence, and sometimes we just sit there and they focus on their art, and at the end we talk about it. Or sometimes we don't talk about it that time. We wait until the next session and kind of go through it. So it depends on the student and what their needs are. It's really flexible in that way, which is what I like about art therapy. It can really be tailored, just like talk therapy can, to the student and their needs. There, I'm leaving some white space in mine for you, Chris. You see it in the little triangles. Oops, there we go.
Feeds my soul.
But you mentioned cutting yours out and turning it into an ornament. I usually cut mine out. I have mine all in the window of my door, the little tiny window there. I've put a lot in there, and I had some hanging up. You can see there's one back here, but I had more up there. This one was created by a client that wanted me to keep it from when I worked at a private practice in the past. And so this, what do you guys see? What do you see any, like, what emotion would you think, or what emotions would you think were represented in something like this?
I went very like space, black hole. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think, Charlie? Anything? Or Kiana?
And because he has a lot of, well, that individual has a lot of dark colors.
Right. So
One on.
dark colors don't necessarily mean, you know, sad or anger or anything like that. Like, you know, we typically think if you see a lot of red, that must mean that they're really angry, and that's not necessarily true. Hi guys, look at you. Right in there. But this person was feeling like really overwhelmed. So this represented them in the middle here, this tiny little dot. And then these are all the different things that were happening in their life. And just doesn't it look like it's going to swallow them like a black hole? Like it's going to swallow them whole, right? It looks so overwhelming. Like, could you imagine if you're this tiny little dot and there were all these colors? They used some shiny paint too. I don't know if you can tell. It's like a little bit shiny there. But yeah, so doesn't that look like overwhelming? I feel it. I can like feel it in, you know, inside. But anyway, do you want to show us yours, Kiana? If you want, you don't have to. Look
Mine's
at
kind of
that.
just simple, but
Blue
there's a little wave
color.
and then the sun. I like waves and suns. I just thought I should combine them together.
Okay, yeah, love it.
Thank you.
Do you think that you'll use any mandalas in the future?
Say again, ma'am?
Do you think that you'll ever use any mandalas in the future? Like, did you feel relaxed while you were making that, or was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I usually like relax when I see like sun or water. It's just like the beach or like in the middle of the field or in the woods. I just take a walk and just relax.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. Was his name Micah back there? Did he do one or no?
Well, he's doing his class.
Oh, there's a bug here. Okay. Well, then that's it, I guess. Any other questions? Anything else anybody wants to know about mandalas?
But I want to thank you, Whitney, for your time in this session, this art therapy session, just sharing a little bit of what you all do over in the counseling center with the student body, and that let them know that this is a resource that is accessible to them, free of charge.
Free, I was gonna say it's free.
As long as they're enrolled in courses here at Tallahassee Community College. So I just want to thank you, and I am relaxed, just building my mandala. I still have some work to do on mine. I gotta add some more color, but this will probably be a project once later on tonight or tomorrow that
and that's okay. You can come back to it later, you know, do it as you feel. Cool.
All right, well, thank you all again. Chris, thank you for chiming in as the intern over there. Kiana, thank you for joining us.
Yes,
and participating. Students, just be on the lookout. Follow the Counseling Center on their social media outlets. Follow them join their group on my TCC. we'll continue to post stuff. They always pass stuff that they would like us to post on our student life page. So we'll continue to post information that they have coming up next week, Thursday, right? Whitney
Mhm.
starts
It's a
your group.
anxiety group. Yep.
So next week, Thursday, be on the lookout and RSVP for or make your reservation for the group. Great group, help technique, skills, and just an opportunity for you to sit with your peers and learn from one another and help each other out. Because we all need that right now in this day and age, well, this day and time, because we
Yeah.
can't really be amongst each other live and in person without being a certain distance and of course the face mask or face covering. So please take advantage of these groups if you're able to.
Mhm.
And I think that's all. So I
Yep.
want to thank everyone that joined us. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank
And
you, Charlie.
hopefully we see some mandalas going up around campus or being shared on social media. So please feel free to share
Yeah.
what
Tag
you've
us if
done,
you
what you
make
built.
them. Tag us on Instagram if you post your mandala. We love it.
Looking forward to it.
Okay. Thank you, Charlie.
All right, no problem. You all have a great day.
You too.
Thank you.